Right, okay, welcome back. Part 4, primary chain adjustment. Really simple task, you'll find it is no taxing job at all. First job you have to do, get the bike up on the bench, we take it from that, nicely secured, get a little lift underneath it, get the back wheel off the ground. The reason for that is that we have to turn the motor over to do this. It's a Harley Davidson's manual, it makes it very clear that you must rotate the chain to find the tightest point, because we're going to adjust the chain now, or we're going to check the adjustment on the chain at the very least. And if that chain is going to be checked, it needs to be checked at its tightest point. You always check any chain, final drive motorcycle chain, whatever, at its tightest point. So to find that, we have to rotate the engine round so we can rotate the chain round. So take the plugs out, as you saw, stick it in 4th gear, and then I can just rotate the wheel around and that will pull that chain around wherever I want it to be. So after you've done that and everything's nice and safe and secure, not going anywhere, then we'll take the inspection cover off and have a look what's inside. Okay, before we take it off, if you have nothing here, if you just have a dimple in that space rather than a removable inspection cover, that's because you probably have an 06 or later Dyna or an 07 and later Softail, and that simply means that you've got an automatic tensioner inside this casing and you don't need to do anything with it. But those tensioners are not infallible, and there are a few people changing those automatic tensioners for retrofit manual ones, especially on performance bikes. But for a regular Harley you can ride every day, the automatic tensioner is an absolute godsend because it is a job deleted from your service history or service procedure, so that makes it a little bit easier for you to do. But we don't, we have this one, so we're going to take that casing off and I'll show you what's inside it. Right, these screws are T27 Torx, exactly the same as the Derby cover was. And thankfully the previous owner on this one has also put stainless ones in here too, which makes them a little bit tougher. There we go. We're going to replace that gasket, so I'll just lay the cover itself flat on that to stop it scratching. Right, Harley Davidson recommends that you always check the chain at the tightest point. So we have to find that tightest point, which means rotating it round until we judge which bit of the chain has the least adjustment. So if you have a little look in here, you can see the chain down there. That's the primary chain. That's the bottom of it. And that chain itself, obviously the top half is where the slack is. It will droop at the top. So if you put your fingers in up the top here, you can feel there's the droop. I'm sort of pushing up on the chain like that at the top. You can feel it. So take your fingers out of the way, completely out of the casing, obviously, and then rotate the back wheel like that. You see the chain go by, and we'll stop about there. We're going to go about 5 inches at a time. That's a lot looser there. There we are again. It's about the same. And again. That's a bit tighter there. That is a lot tighter there. So we'll keep going. Just keep going round, feeling the chain, but every 5 or 6 inches. And that's a bit looser there. So we have tight spots and loose spots, which is just life with chains. That's how they are. There it is. That's it. Alright, got it to the tightest point in the chain. Now how to measure just how much slack there is in it. As you saw earlier on, the chain runs along the bottom over a tensioner. You saw a little white plastic tensioner, and it goes round the back of the clutch and then down over the top here, and then you get a droop. That's where the sag is in the top. That's where the slack's always going to appear. And all we do is use a steel ruler to push up on it. And the beauty of that is, can you get up underneath it? Okay? If you see up inside there, you can see the chain up inside, and that, if I put the ruler against the chain, I can push it upwards. You see if I come this side? Yeah. I'll come out that side there. You see me pushing the chain upwards, which is the slack that we're looking to make sure is correct. Now, fortuitously, if we look at the actual ruler here, you see that the steel ruler, the 3-inch mark, sits nicely against the edge of the casing. So that corner, that corner right there becomes a fixed point against the 3 inches. And we push upwards, using that as a fixed point, it goes up to 3.5 inches. So that tells us we've got 1/2 inch of slack in there at the moment. If we come the other side, just to double check that, come the other side of this post in the middle, back against the chain. Here we are. 3 inches on the marker there, and then we push the chain upwards, getting 1/2 inch. Now 1/2 inch at the tightest point of the chain is not enough, so let's adjust that. Okay, factory gives you a range of adjustment as usual, and as this is a cold engine, the cold adjustment range is 5/8 to 7/8 of an inch. You always have to adjust the clutch cold because you're making that heat expansion space, but you can adjust the warm engine setting, or you can adjust the primary chain warm on a Harley, provided you get the right setting. For the cold engine though, that setting is 5/8 to 7/8 of an inch up and down drop or sag. So to get that, we've only got half at the minute. We need roughly another 1/8 of an inch, which isn't a great deal, but it has to be right. It's outside tolerance. So first of all, we're going to loosen off the adjuster. So I want to get Penny to bring the camera in, show you right inside the casing, see if we can see that adjuster nice and clearly and how it actually works. I'll show you. Okay, so if you look at the back here, this is the bolt or the nut that we have to undo. This is the tensioner, that's the arm of the tensioner that goes down under the shoe. And this serrated wall, if you like, or this serrated bracket at the rear of the casing meshes in to the other side of this. The other side of this bracket is serrated just like that, and the two of them mesh in together. So you simply loosen this off, lift it up a couple of teeth, and then bolt it back together. And as you can see here above, if I'm going like that, you can see here there's a little gap. So there's a slot all the way up and down the back there. And all you do is, as I said, back that off, lift it up a couple of teeth if you want to tighten it, or drop it away a couple of teeth, which we're going to do if you want to loosen it off, and then nip it back up. So let's do that next. Right, this little slot at the back here, I'm going to be using that as a visual guide that I've dropped a little bit and ready to bolt back up. So the nut in there is 9/16 or 14 mil, pretty much the same thing. Just loosen that off. It's not tight. Give you the torque setting in a minute. So coming down a little bit, releasing it down slightly. Whoop, too many. Okay, just lift it up. And there you can see there's now a bigger gap. I'm just going to nip that up. Just gently, like that. Take the ruler. I'm going to test my figure again. Slop inside, against the chain. Okay, already I'm down below 3, so I'm going to go from 1/8 of an inch above the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch. And if I force that, I'm not even getting another 16th. So that's absolutely lovely. I'm going to check it again this side. Down from 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch. That's lovely. So now what I need to do, now I know that's correctly set and meshed into the teeth at the back, I just need to torque it up. There we go. All right, one more final check after torquing it up. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch. This side in there on the 3 inch mark, 1/2 inch, 5/8. There we are. So we have the exact correct tension. That's lovely now. Much better. Now, why was it tight? Who knows? I don't know really. Perhaps the previous technician tightened it up a little bit too much, or didn't quite check, or they were rushed or something, or they just read the wrong setting in the book, because that was set at the warm setting and the engine's stone cold. So that needs a little bit more slack. Simple as that. Now, if you do this incorrectly, or if you don't do it, simply neglect it, there are a couple of things that can happen. If it's way over tight, then you're putting stress on the bearings each end, as we said. If it's loose, then it can lash around and thrash around inside the box, cause vibration, which is horrible. And in extreme cases, it could thrash around so much it hits the tensioner and breaks it, because that tensioner in there is just soft plastic and it will break up. The other thing is, if you ever see little bits of white plastic, little chips of white plastic in the primary oil, then you know what it is. It's bits of the tensioner breaking up. Not a difficult job to replace that tensioner at all. It really isn't. It's just take this casing off, which is whatever it is, about a dozen bolts, lift the casing off, you need a gasket first. Once that casing's out of the way, there are 2 bolts that hold that tensioner in. It's as simple as that. Take it out, and the new plastic piece is not even that expensive. You can put it back in. Better to have a new one if you're not worried, but I've managed to lift that up, check underneath, and there is a bit of a groove where the chain runs, but that's normal. It's as it should be. The groove develops just through wear. But in the next service, at 5,000 more miles, I might well take this casing off completely and take that tensioner out and check it. Check it to make sure that it's not wearing too much, because this is 30,000 miles. So at 35,000 miles, I'll do this service again, and at that point then I think 35,000 miles is enough to want to check that tensioner properly and make sure it's all safe and for what it costs sticking that one in. Right, casing back on. Back to our gasket kit again. Again, this gasket set is a universal set. If you look in the bag that they give you, right, so you get 2 of these primary inspection gaskets. That square one is for the Evo engines. The earlier motors have got that shaped casing. This motor has got this shaped casing, so you use the relevant one. Such is life with universal gasket sets. Right. Okay, the inspection cover on this is just a lump of metal plate. It's a 4mm piece of metal plate. Nothing sophisticated about it, no shapage to it at all. It's just a square, flat piece of plate. So make sure there's no nicks or cuts on it. Got your brand new gasket. And it's a paper gasket or card gasket, if you will, and I like to grease them. Now, there's no need for any sealant on here because it's not a pressure casing. It doesn't even get that hot. This casing, you can put your hand on it when the engine's running and it won't burn you. It's never that hot. It's only transferred heat through from the cylinders, so it's not an issue. And all I like to do with anything like this is just smear grease around the casing. Now this stops these cardboard gaskets. We've all seen them. They're all stuck to the job. You have to scrape them all off with scrapers. I just like to use, and this is ordinary grease. I get lots of questions, what grease is that? Have you got a link, Dill? And all it is just an LM2, low melting point, regular grease. Ordinary, nothing special. Take the gasket, lay it on there. And again, bulging side of the gasket inwards, the same as the primary. And that was written on there which side way it goes. So pop that on there. Finger of grease around the inside of the casing as well. It's a little bit easier than wiping it all over the gasket. There we go. Grease that up too. Pop it on. There we go. Pop the bolts in. Buttoned up and clean for another 5,000 miles. And don't forget to put your plugs back in, but before you do, why not obviously stick new ones in? This is a service after all, and before we do that, let's have a little look at condition of them to see if we can get any information from what they look like to see how the bike's running. So let's have a closer look. Right, as you can see from there, you get this lovely kind of biscuit colour, no black, no sooty deposits. This is a fuel injected bike, so it should be correct. It's had a stage 1 tune on a Pro tuner, so it is burning a little bit richer than a factory bike. So that's a bit darker than you might expect a factory bike to be, but that's good. I prefer them a little bit more like that. That's safer, it runs a bit cooler, and they are absolutely perfect. So we're going to use this. This is a little Blue Point gap checker. It's not a feeler gauge as such. It's not as accurate as a feeler gauge, but it will give us an idea where they are, because the bike runs like a dream. It's superb. So they're set at about, let's have a look, 35, about 37. Now that's quite a big old gap. They are both the same. Yep, there we are. So they're fine. We've got the 2 new plugs from the dealer and we picked everything else up. Just going to check the gap on those. They should come gapped correctly. Check that on there. Yep, about 37. They're both the same. The only reason that could have closed up is if it's been dropped and the end of that electrode has had a biff on the bench and it's closed it up. But normally, I always find them to be perfect. You put them straight in. Yep, there we go. Right. Now this may upset a few people, but I've always put a very small amount of copper slip on plugs because I've had them seize in the cylinder head and then that bears on the thread. Copper slip is a heat-proof lubricant and it will prevent the plug from seizing in place. It helps it slip in nicely all the way in by hand, which is lovely. There we are, that's gone in all the way up to the hilt without the use of a spanner. Again, just a little smear on the end and just smear it round, and that'll prevent the plugs from seizing in if you ride it in the weather. And it is an issue with Harleys, more so than other bikes, because as you can see from this, the side of the bike is open to the weather, and you get weather in, or you get all the water sitting in these plug seats. So there's no reason not to use just a little bit of nous and pop a little bit of copper slip around them, or anti-seize or something. Just stops them seizing in place, getting stiff. Because the thread they're going into is an aluminium thread, so again, it's delicate. Although it's a cylinder head, if you cross that thread or strip it, oh my goodness, it is a world of hurt, it really is. It's just preventative. Right, now this is again another one of these situations where I never torque them in. A spark plug has a crush washer. Let's just pop it in first. Let's just palm that in. I always palm them in like the drain plugs. That's right there. Just feel for that. That's about right. That's absolutely fine. Now when you put a spark plug in place, it has a crush washer. If you imagine two washers that are shaped a bit like that, and they're pressed together, so you kind of get this hollow washer. And when it meets a resistance, it starts to crush. Now the idea of that is if there's any imperfections in the surface around this seal, then obviously that takes it up. It fills the imperfections and you get a gas tight seal. Because we talk about pressure joints, so where there's an oil pressure inside, you need a proper copper washer or something, or the brakes where you need copper washers because they're a high pressure joint. There ain't no high pressure joint that's higher pressure than your spark plugs, because you've got your combustion happening in there, and that really has to seal. Now winding them in and swinging on them like a gibbon doesn't do any good. It will stress the threads, it will potentially damage the cylinder heads, and it won't mean any different. They still won't come out. Do them up like I've just done. Put them in. If you want a torque setting, if it makes you happy to use a torque setting, then look it up and you use that. That's entirely up to you. But on spark plugs, I've always done the same thing. You palm them in and just give them a wrist twist, and that is good enough. If you're worried about it, in, I don't know, 1,000 miles time, pop a plug spanner on them again, just give them a little, just to make sure they haven't come loose. And I guarantee you they won't have. So spark plugs, done. There we go. Just palm them in. That's it, done. Well, there we go, job number 4 on your main service. We've done the gearbox oil, done the primary oil, we've done the clutch adjustment, and now a primary chain adjustment. And I'm glad I did that because it needed doing. So that's all correct. Now we've left just one major job. We're going to do the forks at the end, but the next job, the major thing, is the big main oil change. That oil change, I'm not just going to dump the tank and refill it. There's a little bit more to it than that. I'm going to purge it through, and there is a process to that to do it correctly. Purging the oil through the system, only for a Softail is this relevant. You can't do it on other bikes. The Softail has the external oil pipes. You can take off the return pipe, put it into a jug, and you can pump the dirty oil through that would normally have stayed in the system. You know, at the end of the day, you'll get another pint of dirty oil, that is, out of your motor if you purge it through. And that's something that the dealer won't do unless you ask them.
And pay for it.
Yeah, and pay for it, says Penny. Indeed, if you go to your dealer and you ask them to do a full purge change, there will be another pint of oil to pay for, and possibly a little bit more charge, because it is a lengthy process. It probably takes about an hour to do a full purge oil change. So therefore, as you can see, it's not the sort of thing they do on a very time-sensitive, busy workshop. They'll just dump the tank and they'll put new oil in. And there's nothing wrong with that. That isn't incorrect. That's fine, it will be okay. However, if you want all of the oil changed in your engine, all the stuff that lives in the journals, the pump, the filter, all of that changed, watch us in the next video and we'll show you exactly how to do it and give it a proper oil change like it's probably never had. Anything else, man?
Hope that helps.
Hope that helps. Take it easy, ride safe. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one.